I do apologize. I should have had this set up beforehand. There we go. All right. So we'll put Mr. Keyboard away. And before we get into the main event, which is the booster boxes, we got 4 of them. And that's not it. There we go. All right. We got pre-release stuff. So, there's the foil Yuki and my pre-release deck. So I could go over pre-release because I just came from pre-release. Not like just came from pre-release, but pre-release has happened. So I'll open up my pre-release packs and talk about the pre-release experience just as a general thing. So we'll move these off to the side, stack them up. I would generally show my pre-release deck, but the majority of it literally is just kind of fluff and whatever. So it's not like that's going to be anything too exciting because my deck is probably not going to be able to be recreated. So it's mostly just a couple of key cards and highlights. That's kind of what I'm going to be getting at with the pre-release event. So I guess to start things off, welcome. I generally do booster box openings of every single set. I think it was around EX... No, it was... it was around EX4 that I decided to start to slow down on booster box openings. And by booster box openings, I'm talking more about the sheer quantity of booster box. So I purchased no boosters of EX4, and the last case I bought before I made the switch to 4 boxes was BT13. So that was the last case that I bought. And then ever since then, I've been buying pretty much 4 boosters of every single set. But I regretfully are going to be informing you this is the last booster box set I'm actually going to be opening. After this set, from this point out, when I'm playing, it's going to be all singles. So, yeah, it's just finances aren't exactly there for me to support the game the way that I want to, and it is just cheaper to go the singles direction. So, yeah. I decided for the very last one, we're going to end off block 4 as strong as we possibly could. Well, not as strong as... I guess it is as strong as we possibly could. We're going to end off block 4 is kind of where I'm getting at. Because going into block 5, my spending habits need to change. So that's a little bit of an unfortunate thing, but I wanted to announce that and get that out of the way first. So, the last booster box opening video is actually going to be a stream. So, cool on that. Just wanted to be 100% clear and put that up front. So as far as pre-release goes, so I did end up winning my pre-release. So here's my full art foil Yuki. I guess the light of this is blocking it, but yes, it is the full art foil Yuki. I did end up using in my pre-release deck the normal Yuki. So, ta-da, normal Yuki, full art foil. Well, I guess they're technically both alt arts. Fair enough? Yeah. So, as far as my experience with the pre-release, before I actually get into the booster box openings, this pre-release was incredibly awkward. I don't know if anyone actually noticed, but the majority of the cards, because they're two color cards, actually has a higher evolution cost. So that was what made the format feel a little bit more awkward because everything was just slowed down. So to compensate that, at least what I noticed and what I was kind of like telling was memory setting tamers are huge. Make sure to have a memory setter so that way you could actually make your plays instead of like hope that you're going to Digivolve and keep your Digimon, especially if the opponent has a Digimon in Raising. So memory setters are really important, and then to offset the memory setters, because sometimes 3 memory is not enough, because you do have a lot of like level 4s, or not level 4s, level 5s with a Evo cost of 4. So that's going to be really important to try to offset this breakpoint in terms of the cost and efficiency of your evolutions. Then the other thing, so like having a memory setting tamer and a tamer to give you 1 extra memory was something that I noticed came in handy quite a lot. As far as the options go, actually taking a look at the options, the majority of them were relatively unplayable except for Queen Device. Queen Device is a really fantastic card because unlike most other options, it doesn't actually need a color on the field as long as you have tamers, which you're already trying to do anyway. But if you already like have heavy on the colors that it's playing with, then it's a pretty good card. Oh no, it literally just ignores it as long as you don't have another Queen Device. So yeah, it's just the easiest option to run that actually has a tangible impact on the game. So what I decided to do with my deck more specifically was with the rookies, because a lot of them do have the 1 cost evolutions. I actually like decided to run lower on the eggs. I pulled like 7 eggs, but I only ran 2 of them. So the idea for this was in the early stages, I do just kind of go tempo to tempo with my opponent. And then after a while, I just start like, okay, I ran out of eggs. I'm just going to raise this so that way I can avoid the evolution cost. That was something that was kind of neat and interesting to do. And that put me in a slightly better position than my opponent because I didn't deck out as much or as quickly because I wasn't using the extra evolutions to draw. And after a certain point, I noticed like the extra cards in my hand really just didn't matter. I just needed to try to find all of the consistency tools that I could. The aces were actually like really weird because I couldn't use Examon Ace, but I did end up pulling the combo to Fenry Lugamon Takamikazuchi Ace. So out of like the 6 packs, I pulled 4 supers. Well, technically it was 3 supers and 1 secret. And yeah, the level 7s came in huge clutch. I mostly actually used Takumi Kazuchi because I had cards to better support him. So Takumi Kazuchi put in a lot of heavy lifting, even though these were one-ofs. I did have the Breaker for the Examon. I didn't have the Slayer, but at least to like DNA, I didn't have to worry about colors. Where Taka, I kind of had to worry about colors if I wanted to, or I didn't have to, I had to worry about both names and colors. So at worst, I could just Evo into him for normal, but it didn't feel as great, and like it did come up in a couple of games. Outside of that, like I only had like 4 level 4s, so my level 4 count was really trim, so I had to try to focus on like early tempo and removal. And I was just running like as much removal as I humanly possibly could. Just to try to deal with whatever my opponent could potentially throw at me. So, like, all the cards I'm kind of pulling out were just, like, really good cards to help with the overall removal potential. And actually deal with bodies. So, like, there was a lot that I needed to do to try to keep tempo. And, like, one thing that I noticed also was, like, sometimes, because the Evo costs were so high, these level 4s that costed 4 to hard play actually came up quite a lot and were pretty good because I would like Evo and then Evo from 1 level 4 into a level 5 and then I would pass turn, or I could just start developing a second body and then depending on the level 5 that I had sitting on, I could do various different things with. So how did I build in pre-release? So how did I build my pre-release deck? So I took and went into this pre-release with a slightly different mindset because there were so many different archetypes that were in the set and not a lot of generic cards. I actually sorted my cards. Normally I sort my cards by level. So I'd be like, okay, here's level 7s, here's level 5, here's a level 4, here's level 6s. So usually I just do that and I kind of see what's the best cards of my curve. But this time around, I actually took a different approach and I sorted by archetype. So I'm just like, this is a ghost. This is a ghost. This is SOC. This is SOC. And I went and I kind of like evaluated the archetypes that I was playing with. And I tried to see, like, obviously I sorted the generic cards out first. And I was like, okay, this is a pretty good generic card. So I'm just going to be running this by default. And then outside of that, I was just like, what archetypes am I heavier in to see if this archetype is worth playing or not? Because the heavier you are into a specific archetype, the more that archetype is going to actually benefit your deck overall. So the majority of the archetypes that I was working with was like a little bit of XLs, not a whole lot. XLs were pretty good just because of the low play cost. But I mostly just tried to focus on SOCs, XLs, and ghosts. And then I just kind of played with whatever I had. So there was an argument for me to play cross because my secret rare was the Nene secret rare. And then the other super rare that I had was a cross, it was cross 6X or E6X, to correct myself. So I looked and I saw like, hey, is cross actually playable for me? And the answer was no. So I basically just took all of the cross cards and I threw them out, and not like literally metaphorically threw them out. And I just didn't even take into account for the deck. But yeah, I just like looked at the pool of cards that I had and tried to figure out what archetypes would benefit where the direction of the deck went best. So that's kind of like the unique approach that I took for this pre-release more specifically, because a lot of the cards are asking for archetype specific cards. Like this card's only really good because I had the level 6s to pair up with it. I had the level 7. I had 2 of the Code Crackers and Hacker Judge. So, like, that's kind of, like, went into, like, I also had 2 Lugamons to help with the searching for it. So, like, I had the majority of the pieces. I think the only one I was missing was, like, the level 5 in terms of, like, or a level 4 in terms of the one-ofs. So, like, I had almost the entire line, even though it was mostly just one-ofs outside of, like, 2 for here and here. But that's what made me feel comfortable and confident that even though it's just one-ofs, I could still potentially do something impactful with it. So that's kind of just my unique approach going into this pre-release more specifically, was generic cards, tamers, and what archetypes I was going to be playing with. So yeah, definitely it was a very awkward pre-release. I'm not going to lie, most pre-releases are awkward, but the more archetype heavy it goes into, because the archetypes just don't play with each other, the more awkward it's going to be. So, like, my opponent was not even playing around Takemikazuchi Ace, and in the finals, when I pulled it out on him, he just scooped. He was so disgusted that I actually had it, he just scooped. Granted, I was basically going to win because of the card, but, yeah. He was just like, of course you have it. I'm just like, I'm sorry, like, I know you reasonably can't play around the card because of how stupid this format is, but, like, that just goes to show what a little bit of luck and good proper deck building can do. So yeah, I got first place. I obviously got the Yuki, and then I got 8 packs for winning. So we could open these packs before we open the 4 booster boxes. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little about the pre-release deck and the pre-release experience, since it just happened not that long ago. So let's throw those away. So I think, like, out of all the pre-releases I played in, there was, like, literally one set I didn't win a pre-release for. I don't remember what set it was because I eventually got the winner card, but I know there was one set I didn't win. So I have a pretty good track record when it comes to pre-releases. So let's just cut right to the back and see what the special cards are, because I am going to take the same formula, go first box slow so we could kind of soak up and enjoy the booster box, and then the rest we're going to blitzkrieg. So nothing special here. Thank you, Trash, for being right next to me. Got an Oryukin Ace, so that's kind of cool. I should probably still do my usual splits between commons and uncommons, because that's generally how I like sort them in my boxes. Growlmon Ace, not bad. Not great, but not bad. Just hitting supers is kind of just nice. But because, like, the really weird thing about this set more specifically is the rares kind of just got boned. Not gonna lie. Because of the fact that, like, there's an above average amount of rares in this set. On top of the fact that rares are also being eaten by more secret or supers. So it just makes the rares a little bit more premium than in previous sets. But I think like there's going to be enough of this set opened to where the rares really won't start spiking until like way later, if they even do. Invisi. And then at the shop, they did open the like super special Omnimon. So that was really disheartening, knowing that I am most likely not going to open that card because they opened it there. I'm just like, ah. And this is a rare. Okay, Sakuya. So out of 4 packs, or out of 8 packs, I got 4 supers. Not terrible. That's about correct when it comes to the mathematical averages of it. Not terrible supers either. So this makes my second Shoutmon EX3. So that means I don't have to purchase a whole bunch of them. All right. So now we get to go into the main event. Oh, I guess before that, I should probably turn monetization on. All right, cool. I always forget to do that with streaming. I know it sounds scummy, like, oh, I'm turning monetization on midstream, but whatever. I kind of started this woefully unprepared. And I guess for this portion, I should probably pull up little Avatar Chan. Where is desktop? There we go. He doesn't need to be this big. And then I could obviously make this a little bit bigger. Perfect. You could be tucked a little bit further in the corner. There we go. All right, cool. So now that Avatar Chan is out, best of luck. Hope I get the SP. I hope I get something good. That would be obviously the dream. It's only 4 boxes. The case was, these are the last 4 boxes to the case that was at the store. Then they open another one, and then they open the Omnimon immediately. So like there still is a chance at something good. I just don't know what everyone else pulled in the case to know if I'm reasonably gonna actually have a shot. But I guess that's like the blindness is part of the fun, right? So, let's just, well, I could put these away now. All right, let's dive into box number 1. So each booster box, if you're unfamiliar and didn't see any other booster box openings, we get 3 box toppers in this set. So we get the ever so classic Tamer box topper. So usually they'll change between Tamers and eggs. Then on top of that, we get the LM, like update box topper, which is fine. Just more cards is always nice. Is this 1 or 2 cards per pack? I think it's 1. It might be 2. We'll have to open it up. And then you get the lucky pack, which is going to be a additional super rare or secret rare in the set. Just to try to make sure that you actually can get the cards, because when they change booster box ratios, most of the time something ends up being messed up, and this is to try to compensate for at least the supers. At least, like, the cool thing is there's pre-release cards, so you can still try to get some of the rares through pre-release cards. So that's a reason why it's nice having the rares, even though they're already foil, having the pre-release stamp. My locals got its delivery delayed, so pre-release got delayed too. Oof. That's what I've been hearing for a lot of other places. Like, not everyone got it exactly on time, but that's why, like, the secondary market's going to be really interesting, because people are still opening it up, and because there's no real competitive 2.5 events yet for a while, probably until Worlds, we don't actually know what the meta is going to be. We could use the Japanese data to infer where the direction of the meta is going, but we very obviously play differently than Japan. And going forward, Japanese data is going to be less and less viable because of the sheer difference in play style, on top of the fact that we're going to be discovering stuff together. So let's just enjoy and bask in the card's overall glory. So we got Gaussmon, Impmon, Cubimon, Raptordramon. I do think it's kind of nice having the babies in the common slot. I saw a lot of them at pre-release, but just accessibility is nice. Meteor, Rocket Soul, Falcomon, Reapermon, Shoutmon Cross 5, Groudemon. The first rare is Mega Gargamon, and then we're starting things off with a Cool Boy. Not bad. Not bad. I don't know how I feel about Royal Knights being good, because, like, anytime it feels like these, like, on-play decks are good, it kind of feels really toxic. Just because you literally can't do anything outside of, like, the Psych Floodgate or whatever. So I don't know if Royal Knights being good is actually a good thing. Because as we saw with, whatchamacallit, Demon Lords, they were incredibly pushed and, incredibly unfun. So, like, I think it's neat that they have these alternative ways to play the game, but, at the same time, I don't know if they're actually healthy. Seems like Royal Knights are gonna be busted. Yeah, exactly. Candlemon, Cordramon, Crabmon X, Diatri, Monodramon, Sparrow, Growl, Wing, Cyber, Reaper, Ryu, and Necro. Nice. So, already starting off pretty strong. I think, like, Ghosts is going to be a very accessible deck, and that makes me excited because it looks like it's a strong deck, but not, like, overly toxic. Which I think is, like, what the game needs. The game, like, Necromon is kind of filling that role where it's just like, yes, it is part of the whole cycle of, like, decks that just want to have their mega die and then reset their board. But, like, the big difference is Necromon is leaving Digimon on the field versus Hybrids leaving Tamers, and Digimon are easier to interact with than Tamers. So, like, I like that it's a pretty strong and fun deck that's reasonably easy to make because it's the 90% out of this booster box. Like, my brother, just from today at Locals, he basically built this deck almost entirely at locals, and he's just like, yeah, I just need to buy 2 Necromons and I'm basically good to go. And I think that's cool. That's really nice for accessibility in terms of like being able to build new decks quickly, which is like the good draw 2 archetypes, but the other thing is they have to support that archetype in order to make that investment more worthwhile. But I guess like because of how cheap Necromon is to get into, it's not like it's that bad or expensive of an investment versus some other decks that maybe people will feel more inclined to, where it's like, oh, I spent hundreds of dollars on this one deck that never got support, or it got support and it was just really bad. So like having good decks that are affordable while not being like game breakingly good is very good for the game. Metal Fance, Bulk, Bulb, Pina, Pulse, D-Reaper Zone, Hover, King, Huckmon, Oblivi, Altur, Ballista, and Oryu. So, the only, like, so far, the biggest dud that I can think of when it comes to this set, or, like, I guess more it's a criticism to BT20, is Seekers is not a real deck. I'm sorry, Seekers fans. Seekers is not a real deck. You cannot play those lines together. You could, it just won't be very good because they're mechanically doing 2 completely different things, with just the cross evolution being the only thing to tie them together. Do you think his Necromon is better than Nightmare Soldiers? Yes. 100% Necromon is better than Nightmare Soldiers. Necromon has way better and more efficient control tools, more straightforward pathing, and better synergy and search potential, on top of overall tempo efficiency. Like, Nightmare Soldiers compared to Necromon, like, if you were to buy one of those 2 decks, I would say buy Necromon 9 out of 10 times. Just because Necromon is the better card and better deck. We got Hopmon, Bonds of True Love, Boutmon, XVmon, BBmon, Queen Device, Lugamon, Voldramon, Greymon, Vmon, Gallantmon, and... Oh, this is an alt art Necro. I didn't even realize that. And a normal Necro. Okay, so one of our alt arts is a Necromon. Whoops, totally missed that one. I guess I wasn't paying attention. But, like, I think this set does a lot of really good things for, like, accessibility point. Because, like, you do get XL. Like, XL, I think, like, is a very another good example of, like, hey, this deck might not be top tier. It might not even be tier 2, but it's still a highly accessible and cheap investment to get into. And you just need to invest in this single set in order to get 90% of it. Nightmare Soldiers is more priest-reliant and needs more support. Exactly. Yeah, like, even though there's not a lot of ghosts in the game, what we do have are pretty decent, and even if you don't want to support ghosts, like, the good half of Necromon's evolution lines plus hybrids still opens the opportunity for Necromon to see play, versus, like, Nightmare Soldiers, it's a little bit more harder to play with some of those cards agnostically of Nightmare Soldiers, obviously. Trust me, I've been trying to figure out what the heck Nightmare Soldiers was doing when it first released, and even then I still don't have confidence in it. We got Knight's Device, Trinity Burst, Punkmon, Ballistamon, Soulmon, Liamon, Soul Lugarmon, Black Sabbath, Lugamon, Raidenmon, Slayer, and Takato. Kind of cool. I do think one of the weakest Liberator decks, unfortunately, is the Dark and Evil Dragons. That definitely seems like, out of all of the Liberator decks, the biggest loser. And she's supposed to be the protagonist deck of the web novel, which I think is pretty sad. But they tried, and they tried again. So maybe with more Liberator support, she'll get, like, another wave of support and then actually maybe be a real deck. Because like I know I haven't really caught up on Liberator, but based on where the direction of the story is headed, it feels like the climax that they're reaching is the halfway climax. Like the story just feels half done. So I think like maybe they're gonna squeeze another year out of Liberator. They could squeeze 2 years more at most though. But like that's why a lot of people are like, hey, anything Liberator is like a halfway decent investment because it's still gonna be getting some support. Um, which I think is correct thinking, based on like storytelling and game progression. You don't think Excel is a good investment because it's based upon an unpopular pet? Um, you're not wrong. I'm not gonna say you're not wrong. Um, I'm a personal fan of not Excel as a whole, but I'm a big Bancho Leomon fan. So I just have a personal investment in the deck. Uh, Another double rare pack. But the cool thing is, like, the Excel package, and this is something that I was experimenting with, like, the Excel package, for the most part, is all commons and uncommons. So, like, even though the deck might not be that great, it's still a very efficient, like, cost efficiency deck. Not like in terms of cost of cards, monetary cost. Because the only cards you really would be spending money on to boost the deck up is like a tamer, which is like whatever. And then some of the staple options and the level 7s. Like that's pretty much it. So like I was already thinking for the common and uncommon event that they're going to be holding in like a month or two, like building the XL shell and then swapping out the level 6s for something because it gives me access at 3 different colors to potentially use with red or with yellow, black, and green. So that gives me a lot of options to use the Excel engine to do something with for a lower power format. And even then, my deck comes with 2 megas. Even if I don't have the DNA, I could still do something with both of those megas that puts me at a slight advantage compared to some other decks. But we still have like BT21 and the starter decks that could really change how that format's going to work. Viximon, Ginryumon, Kapurimon, Dorulumon, Soulmon, Morlugermon, Soul Lugermon, Battle NPC, Paildramon, Kiriha, Violet and Boots, and a Giga Seadramon. So hit another super. Excel might have potential to play. Yeah. Like I think there's a lot of decks that have a lot of untapped potential. It's just taking the time to experiment with them, which most people don't want to do. I'll be frankly honest. Like most people don't want to experiment with mediocre decks because we know they're already not competitive out of the gate. But sometimes like deck loyalists and experimenters, or even color loyalists or whatnot, can find some really fun tech and successes. Like just talk to Lychee King on how he just magically turns black into one of the best colors because he keeps topping with unconventional black decks. Unleash the Dragon Gene, Knight's Device, Falcomon, Monodramon, Meteoroxol, Candlemon, Queen Device, Dinobee, Leol, Guilmon, Shooting Starmon, and Calomon. Vortex and Mineral are the best of the Liberator stuff. I don't know how I want to actually respond to that one. I don't think that it's exactly incorrect, but I don't think it's correct at the same time. I think like the Dinomon stuff out of everything Liberator has had physically the most success. Hey, Heavy Metal Ace. So like if we're going from competitive standpoints, like what Liberator deck had the most competitive success, that's very easily Dinomon. Very easily Dinomon. And that's because Dinomon, like, is such a anti-meta card. That's what makes him meta defining, is because like he's in the same play pattern as where a lot of other decks are, where it's like if I get into a Dynamon early enough, I can put a lot of pressure on the opponent and flood the gate, essentially floodgate them out of wanting to attack, which is really good. And then if they do clear my Digimon then has the potential to immediately clear them. So, like, OTK-based decks absolutely hate Dynamon. They absolutely hate Dynamon. So, like, Fenrir Lugamon just automatically loses the game if Dynamon literally hits the field with the source underneath. Because they'll do their big combo, clear out their Digimon, then their Dynamon comes back and immediately kills the Taka Mikazuchi before it could even do anything. So, like, that's kind of the niche position that Dynamon has in the meta as, like, the best Liberator anti-meta card. Yeah, Dynamon is very easily, like, data-wise, the best Liberator deck that we currently have. Because Dynamon also could run a lot of the good Zefika tools, which, I mean, by good Zefika tools, we all know who we're talking about. It's Medieval Gallantmon. That card, I have very mixed feelings on that card. I understand its place and position in the game, but I don't think the card is ultimately good for the game. I think at this point we saw, like, the majority of the commons and uncommons, and we're hitting a lot of repeats. It's just the rares and the supers that we are seeing new cards. Speaking of new cards, Jessamon GX Ace. But going forward, it'll be interesting to see how Liberator develops, because there's still just a lot of Liberator stuff that we've barely even touched on. There's characters we don't know decks for. There's characters that have been alluded to or mentioned that we haven't seen anything from. So, like, that's kind of what makes me think that Liberators right now is at, like, the halfway point. It'll be interesting to see if it kind of feels more like traditional Digimon, because traditional Digimon shows are relatively formulaic. So it'll be interesting to see if this is going to follow that formula, or if this is going to actually break that formula. And the formula is usually, like, so because it's not a show and it's a card game, and, like, they have access to basically a full deck right away, which means we know all of their Digimon, it leaves, like, zero room for the characters to actually have that discovery of power, where it's just like, okay, I'm going to enter a struggle and then unlock champion, then enter a bigger struggle, unlock ultimate, and then enter another struggle, unlock mega, and then come together for a final struggle and maybe get another power-up. So it'll be interesting to see how Liberators actually develops. Because right now, I think that they're alluding to, like, Shoto having some super special secret power, because they mentioned his, like, hair color changing. Alphamon Oryukin Ace. But I guess that's, like, the cool thing about Digimon is it doesn't have to follow a specific formula if it doesn't want to, and the way Liberators is going is interesting. I would have personally liked to see a Liberator show, but it's nice to see that they're at least experimenting with some other stuff. But TV and, like, TV speaks louder than written words. Like, voice acting obviously is way more appealing than you personally reading. That's why TV as a medium is so much bigger. And it's always mind-baffling that they just don't pump out Digimon show after Digimon show. Not to, like, chase Pokemon trends, but, like, there's a lot. I got Omnimon as one of the secrets. That's always good. I'll take that. But yeah, so, like, the big difference between, like, Pokemon and Digimon when it comes to, like, how Pokemon found its success versus how Digimon found its success is Pokemon knew what it was, and it kept hammering its message in year after year, and the amount of attention to cross-media detail that they had was probably one of their biggest strengths to grow their IP and make sure that it never left the cognitive sphere of people's brains. Where Digimon kind of just comes and goes. It's like, oh, yep, here's a new Digimon show. Now we're going to disappear for a year or two. Then here it is again. Here's a video game. This video game's not going to play like this video game. Like, they keep changing things and going on breaks, and like they just never gave it the attention it needed to actually grow into a proper multimedia franchise. If you're going to change making cards, how would you balance Medieval Gallantmon? How would I balance? So, part of it is like the dumb rule of the Digimon sees itself. So, I absolutely hate that rule where it's just like, oh yeah, Medieval Gallantmon sees himself enter play, therefore can trigger his not on play ability. Like, honestly, it's that ruling that really makes Medieval Gallant like extra insane, is because like even if you were to run like a floodgate that says, okay, the opponent's on play effects don't work. Well, this is technically a power crept on play effect because it happens when he plays himself or when you play him, but it doesn't happen as an on play. It happens as a Wind Digivolve, so now you have to run like anti-Wind Digivolve effects, except most anti-Wind Digivolve effects are attached to a body that needs to be sticking around. And Medieval Gallantmon comes in and then sees himself and then triggers his Wind Digivolving effect as a pseudo on-play effect. I think that part's what's incredibly messed up about the card. Because you have a card like Death Ex, and Death Ex is the most comparable card to it because they're doing some very similar things. It's just, obviously, Medieval Gallantmon is way more oppressive than Death Ex. And don't get me wrong, Death Ex is still played. It's still a played card. It just is a more specifically played card into specific types of formats. Whereas Medieval Gallantmon will always be good, period. And I think that's a big problem. So, like, those... Because, like, it dates all the way back... Like, that type of ability dates all the way back to Blue Flares, where it's just like, yeah, Gaussmon sees himself getting played, therefore, he triggers his own ability because he saw him... Like, cards seeing... Like, this also extends to, like, why Patamon was kind of broken, because he sees his own Digivolution, so he triggers his own inheritable ability. Like, why? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, it does and then it doesn't at the same time. So, if those types of cards didn't see or trigger themselves, I think the cards would be way more balanced. Way more balanced. Because then that would incentivize people to either hard play him and then just use Vortex, which I think is fine. They're allowed to do that. That's a thing. Or they're forced to Digivolve up into him and actually get a Wind Digivolving effect off. So, yeah, like, it's just that aspect that really kind of just pisses me off. On top of the card just still being incredibly strong just because of the mechanics he's playing with. Like, producing his own... Like, he's basically an ace card with no downsides of the aces. So, like, he's already power crept ace cards. Like, to the point where you're probably going to be seeing him as a one-of in almost every single deck forever until, like, something happens. And I think that's inherently a problem. Because, like, at least with the memory boosts and the trainings and the scrambles, their card design... Even though they're going to be ran in, like, almost every single deck forever, also, that's because their card design is based on fixing a native problem with the initial design of Digimon, where Medieval Gallantmon is not fixing an inherent design flaw in Digimon, it's actually pseudo-creating one. Do I play other card games? I did. Or I do. It's like, it's an I did and I do. So, essentially, like, I currently, digitally, am playing a lot of Pokemon Pocket. I think Pokemon TCG Pocket is honestly one of the best designed games I have ever seen. They just released their second mini set, so they're, like, 4 sets in. If you really want to go, like, set card-wise, they're basically like 3 sets in, and that game so far has had some absolute immaculate balancing in card design for the like rules and mechanics of the game. It's been insanely refreshing and really fun. Outside of that, I have a history of Magic the Gathering. I played Buddy Fight. If you want to dig 4 or 5 years into my channel's YouTube videos, you'll see that I did Buddy Fight videos. So just to put a hold on this for like 2 seconds. Yeah, so like here's the Buddy Fight 10th anniversary collection thing. I still do have a lot of Buddy Fight decks and stuff. I used to play Pokemon, so like I used to play competitive Pokemon like way back when. So here's like the Rain Dance deck that I used to play using Blastoise and Gyarados because I stopped before Articuno in like Fossil. So yeah, that was way long ago. And then like I said, I play Magic the Gathering, mostly Commander, and then Pokemon Pocket. I tried Yu-Gi-Oh! Again, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just incredibly dumb and stupid of a game. And I have like other decks from other games too. What is this? Yeah, so like this is a Magic the Gathering deck. And then I do have like a Weiss Schwartz deck because my friend gave me Weiss Schwartz. It was the Ainz deck. So, because he knew I liked Overlord, because I'm a isekai aficionado, one might say. But yeah, so like Buddy Fight was another game that like I loved very dearly, and then they pulled like Bushy pulled the plug, but they pulled the plug because the power balance and design of the game was completely and utterly out of hand. Like the game ended on such a low note that it was really kind of sad because the game ended in OTK the format, where like almost every single deck in the game could OTK, and it was just, do you have the built-in defensive tools to actually stop an OTK or live against an OTK? Because like Future Card Buddy Fight as a card just enabled hyper degenerate OTK everything, where it's just like, yep, I'm going to swing, deal like 6 damage in a single turn in a single attack, and then I'm going to impact and kill you because my impact will deal the rest of the damage. So like it just created a very unhealthy game at the end of it due to insane power creep. And like funny enough, Buddy Fight actually didn't ignore its resource system at all. It had ways to mitigate it, but its power creep was mostly just from card design, not from resource cheating. Where I think like Digimon's power creep comes from resource cheating. And that's a really huge distinction to make when it comes to the overall, like, where is this game's problems coming from? So Buddy Fight just cranked the power up to 11 on the individual cards, but you still had to pay for the cards as they were. So it was still very true to itself. It just was like, yeah, you can't interact with this. This kills you. This OTKs you. There was just hyper degeneracy. And I think like Digimon's not exactly there yet, but we're reaching very dangerous levels, which is why like in my podcast, I compare it a lot to Yu-Gi-Oh! Is because Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game with zero resource system, and because it has zero resource system, that's what enables the game to be hyper degenerate because it has no rules to follow. So we got Blast Ace. Nice. And like the whole point of Digimon is the memory system, but like we're getting to the point where a lot of things are just ignoring the memory system. Like it is in part due to like all of the training cards and the memory boosts and all that stuff, just allowing us, I think it's like having those types of cards isn't bad. It's just the delayed abilities I think was kind of a mistake, because it just is what's enabling the hyper degeneracy of where the game is, where it's like, okay, I'm going to option, find all of the parts and pieces that I need, play a tamer to set myself up, and then as I'm doing all of that, raise my Digimon in the raising area, move out, Digivolve, and straight up kill you right then and there. Or control the game to the point where you can't actually play the game anymore. And I think, like, that's a very not fun play pattern. And part of it is I do blame the delay options, and that's why I'm, like, a huge champion for we need to be able to interact with delayed cards a little bit more than what we have. Because right now we just have play a Floodgate to turn that effect off, so that way you can't use it, or Justimon to be able to delete the option before it does anything. So we need more Justimon type cards or a Justimon type deck to be able to interact with delayed based options so they don't be hyper degenerate all of the time. Because a lot of the problems with the current game are coming from delayed based options. That's just a part of the symptom. I don't think they're inherently a bad thing to have for the game. It's just we need to actually be able to interact with them. Yeah, or Lucimon. But Lucimon probably would see less play than Justimon, to be honest. Oh, 2 Blastaces. Cool. Because, like, if we're able to snipe the options, like, if we had, like, a champion that could snipe the options, or even a rookie that could snipe the options, like a on-play, delete one of the opponent's delayed-based options, like, I think that would go so far to help stem some of those problems with those types of cards to begin with. And then what do we get in the close? Because, like, I'm under the design mindset, Rapid Ace. I'm under the design mindset that not everything needs to be interacted with, but most things you should have the ability to respond to. So, like, not having any response to delayed-based options is what's enabling, like, hyper-degeneracy in terms of OTK decks propping up, and every stack-based deck just wants to be an OTK deck. And, like, that's why Lugamon is so insane, is because it just sits there, builds up tamers, builds up options, moves out, kills you. Granted, Fenrir also ignores the memory system of the game because of how Takumi Kazuchi as a level 7 works, but I digress. Like, everything and that's why purple is so strong as a color, is because we don't have that meaningful of trash-based interactions. Like, we should have more counterplay than what we actually do. Alright, so let's see how many... we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We got 11 SRs in this box. Am I sure all of these are SRs? I'm like, hold on. Are these actually all SRs? I think they are. 11 seemed like a lot. I'm not going to lie. And then we got 2 alt arts and 1 secret. So pretty cool there. Let's see if the lucky pack is going to be good to us. Beelzemon comeback for the game. I think Beelzemon will be fun. I haven't experimented with him yet. He's on my list. Necromon Part 2. Cool. So now I have 3 Necromons out of a total of 1 box. Are these the same foiling, actually? That's something I want to look at. No, they are the same foiling. Okay. I'm just going crazy. Then we get the update pack. Crazy foiling here. You can kind of see how crazy that foiling is. So we got the Deep Savers card and the Nature Spirits card. This card sucks for Nature Spirits, by the way. It makes me so sad that Nature Spirits got, like, incredibly shafted. Because their updated level 6 just is borderline unplayable. And then you got Deep Savers and Nightmare Soldiers where theirs are somewhat playable. And then I think we get 2 here. Oh, we get 3 cards. So we got 2 eggs and a tamer. So that's kind of neat. I wasn't expecting. I mean, I guess with 12 different cards, it makes sense. Which is good. Good for accessibility. Again, I'm a huge proprietor and champion of accessibility. If they give us more promos, I'm never crying. If the price of the promos tanks, again, I'm not crying. It just means that I can actually play the game and afford it. And Digimon, as of late, has actually been trying very hard to make itself more expensive. And I think that's pretty sad. Because it does make it harder to play the game. And that's all we want. What we want people to do is just play the game. But if they're not like able to play the game because they're being priced out because they need expensive promo cards that don't get reprints very often, and like the cool casual thing that they want to do requires a secret rare that is not a very common secret rare. It really just puts a damper and a bad experience on the end user. So, like, while it's cool that there's money in the game, they just needed to be smart about some of the other factors to make the game hyper accessible. Because that's what, honestly, like, that's what makes Pokemon as success. I know I'm talking a lot about Pokemon, but that's literally what makes Pokemon so successful is because, like, the game is accessible. And because of that accessibility, it just makes it easy to get cards. I don't know how their booster box pull rates are and whatnot. But yeah, just being able to get cards and play the game is at any level, like competitive or casual, is something that I always like seeing in card games. Speaking of Justimon, we got a Justy Ace. One of the only cards to actually interact with options, except the only problem is he's not that great of a card and his deck is not that great. Because he himself is relying on delayed-based options. So, yeah. He's like a worse Sakuyamon. I actually don't know if he's a better Sakuyamon or a worse one. Speaking of Sakuya, we got Tau Ace. I don't blame any stack decks becoming OTK because they don't want their mega investment to go to waste. Yeah, so like the game is reaching such a high power point where you don't want your investment to go to waste because you don't have protection. So like that's why you see a lot of decks where if they don't OTK, they have some level of protection to back themselves up. And they're still dealing a lot of pressure against the opponent. But yeah, the protection is what allows them to say, okay, I'm okay with not having an OTK to close out the game. Altart Cool Boy, nice. And, like, the other end of the spectrum, so, like, decks are basically doing one of three things, and I kind of already alluded to this before, but they're doing one of three things. They're either OTKing, having some level of protection, so you still can't interact with them even when they're sticking on the field, or they're dying, resetting, and there's nothing to interact with anyway. So, like, this puts the game in a really stressful position where no matter what you do, you physically can't interact with your opponent. And I think, like, that's a pretty feels bad situation. And, like, that's probably why, like, a lot of people hate more control-style decks is because, like, the levels of interaction that we do get are hyper-toxic. Like, they're extremely unfun. Like, aces were pretty good at the start, and then they became some insanely, like, toxic cards. I think, like, aces, they tried to dial back on them. So, like, they're at least learning from their mistakes. And they're still exploring the design potentials of Ace Digimon, which I don't fault them for doing. So, like, I think there is room and space for Ace Digimon. It's just what they have done in the past was a little on the extra push side. But yeah, so as far as, like, what each deck competitively at a high level is doing is, like, again, it goes down to those three things where no matter which scenario you pick, you're trying to reduce the amount of interaction against the opponent, which I guess is like part of the point of like why these decks are so strong, is because you literally can't do anything about them. But at the same time, then that means, hey, because I can't do anything about them, does this actually make the game feel good or fun or healthy? And like, sure, you could sit there and say, well, we had 10 playable decks in the last meta. But at the same time, when each one of those 10 decks were incredibly toxic and not fun to play against, like, is that actually a good meta? A lot of defenders will say, yes, it is a fine meta, because, you know, that's just the nature of card games. But at the same time, like, I'm playing something like Pokemon Pocket, and even though there is no, like, ace counterplay, do stuff on the opponent's turn, that game still has a healthy back and forth because every element of the game is still interactable. So like if the opponent has something in the back row, well, I have cards that can snipe the back row. So back row attacking is a thing. You have cards to swap positions of cards, so that way you might be able to attack the thing you want to attack. Like, it's such a this is going to Pocket, not the actual Pokemon TCG. I'm sure it exists in the actual Pokemon TCG, but, like, I haven't played enough of modern Pokemon to actually, like, know or say anything regarding that. But the big thing about Pocket that also I like is no deck searching. Instead, decks are just incredibly trim, so it rewards good deck building. But yeah, so like that's an example where even though there is no counter spell type cards, the fact that you could still interact with almost every element of the game is what makes it a very fun game to play. Is because like, okay, if I have this out to this situation, then I'm rewarded for playing into that situation. And then you could play around the fact that they could play into that type of play style. And like that's where the fun comes from, because there is a actual back and forth. Granted, like Pokemon has its own unique issues where it's just like, oh yeah, I coin flipped on Misty and the game ended turn 1. Like I think that's incredibly stupid, to put it lightly. But like that's kind of just the nature of the game. But at least like outside of those case situations, the majority of the game is highly interactable, and I think like that's the big part that Digimon is kind of straying away from, is allowing itself to be interactable. We need some more Metal Greymon Ace cards. I mean, what's its face? Yeah, this card. War Growlmon's kind of on that same level. Like, I like the fact that they gave Inheritables to Ace Digimon, because it adds more value to the lower level ones for being easier cards to remove and get removed. So, like, I think these, even though the majority of them outside of Tau Ace is literally not being played, and Tau Ace is being played for the wrong reasons, like, I still think that it's, like, they are trying to figure out what to do with Ace Digimon. But I wouldn't mind just bad Ace Digimon, like more bad Ace Digimon or medium Ace Digimon existing. Like, we don't need everything to be hyper uninteractive. Like, oh, don't attack me. Oh, you deleted my Digimon. I'm gonna negate the damage and Digivolve for free anyway. Like, we don't really need those. So box 2 is looking pretty okay. I would have rather not seen the Nene, but whatever. It is what it is. You want level 4 aces? So, like, they would have to... So, if they were to do a level 4 ace, it would essentially need to be a 3-cost level 4 Digimon, based on, like, the patterns here, because level 6 aces are, like, 6 to 8 cost. Level 5s are like 5 or 6 cost. I think most of them are 5s. So like a level 4 ace would need to be a 4 cost. And I think like they could do very mundane effects that still disrupt the opponent. And come with their own huge, because like it would have probably like overflow 1 or 2 then. Probably overflow 2 because it's 2, 3, then 4, and then the 5. So it would be 3 cost to hard play, overflow 2. I think that's fine. Like I think level 4 aces could exist. Because, like, half the time where the current state of the game is, we're removing the bodies before aces matter, which is why a lot of ace-based decks are not working. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I only got 10 this time versus the 11 last time. And then 2 alts and a secret. So let's see if the Lucky Pack can give us an Omnimon or something. What are my thoughts on the new Mastimon? I like it. I think the new Mastimon is a really fun card. Examon. So we got Examon Ace as the Lucky Pack card. Update pack. We got Bolt Bout and Hina. Not bad. And then box toppers, we got 2 tamers and a baby. So let's put the Hina on top, just because Hina's a good card to look at. I like the fact that the new Mastimon can snipe tamers. I really like that. So it gives you more flexibility based on the decks. It's just, the thing is, Mastimon, her engine is just too slow. So, like, I don't know. I think she's a fun card. She looks really good and interesting. It'll be nice to see. Like, she's the card that a lot of Mastimon players were kind of waiting for. Where it's just like, oh, we get another good Mastimon to play around with. The Ace still seems really good, and so does the starter deck one. It's just the main fault with Mastimon is the engine rather than the Mastimon herself. But the fact that she could snipe Tamers is huge right now, because Tamers is one of those card types that very few colors and decks actually have any removal or answer for. Which, again, goes to, like, why hybrid decks are usually always problematic, is because, again, it all comes down to interactability, which there's usually a pretty low level of interactability when it comes to Tamers, delayed options, Digimon with insane levels of protection. Like, Magnamon X will always be a strong card because of his Omni Protection. He'll always be a strong card. And, like, he's going to be a very hard card to power creep out. So, like, you have to... He was kind of like one of those big design mistakes. Him and Apocalypse. Apocalypse was just dumb. Apocalypse was just literally straight up dumb because they didn't restrict it. But I think, like, this new designer is better at restricting their things. They're just not good at actually recognizing or understanding the power of certain things. And the other big thing that kind of made me worried was the fact that, like, the mineral deck was designed to be an OTK deck. Why are we designing OTKs to exist? Like, that's the part that boggles my brain. It's just like, okay, if you're actively trying to design and put OTKs into the game, why did you hit cards that enabled OTKs to begin with in the past? So it's just like, okay, now, like, that's why in the last episode, I was kind of like poking around and making fun of the fact that, like, yes, if you're going to purposefully put OTKs into the game, fully understanding and knowing that it is an OTK that you're trying to achieve by turn 3 or 4 or 5, why not just let us have the OTK enablers back in to let those decks exist, because what's the harm? If you're making more, why not just unrestrict the ones that enabled older OTKs? Like, I don't get it. I really don't. So, like, it would have been nice to discover an OTK with close, not have them promote her deck as an OTK deck. Because all of her cards are, like, defensive cards, which is the weird thing. Like, Minerals wanted to be a defensive deck. But then you have Pyramidi and, like, the option that just enable the OTK to begin with, and that's the whole purpose of the deck. And I like the fact that Fragment was trying to revive Digiburst. But, again, the fact that Digiburst was abused to OTK, and now you have Close and Minerals trying to OTK based on a new iteration of, like, potential Digiburst. It boggles my mind. It's supposed to build up to one big swing, like Royal Knights, I thought. No, like, it is and it isn't. Hey, Zephica as the secret rare. Not a terrible one. It's not Omnimon, but it's not terrible. Royal Knights, so, like, OTK decks and clock decks are two different things. So, clock decks are more control style decks that have a finisher that you're building up to, rather than this is a stack deck with defensive abilities that then just has a mega that just decides to say, screw it all, I'm gonna OTK. So, like, their design is a little bit different, but I think, like, Digimon increasing the clock speed of clock decks is incredibly bad. So the reason why I think that's bad is because clock decks are basically supposed to be the power floor. So when you have a clock deck, that is going to dictate the pace in which the game is supposed to be played at. So when a clock deck is actually the meta floor, like the very bottom level, everything that's going to be meta competitive is going to have to break through that floor. So whether that's them being uninteractable or them being able to close out the game with sheer aggression, whatever it may be, like, that's the base level that you have to be able to play the game at. So having a clock deck with a faster clock tells me that the speed of the game is going to be increasing to an amount that decks aren't going to be able to compete at. So, like, that's why I say, like, when Royal Knights is good, when 7 Great Demon Lords is good, is not actually good for the game. Like, sure, it's fine that they can exist. I'm not saying their existence is bad. It's just their existence is supposed to be the power floor, not the power ceiling. Because it's the same as, like, alt-win cons. So, like, alt-win cons, there's only 2 ways to play alt-win cons. They're either incredibly bad and borderline unplayable, or they're the best and only thing that to play because of how good and efficient they are at closing out games. Clock decks are similar to alt-win conditions. Like, it's the closest thing we have to alt-win conditions without, like, alt-win conditions really existing. I mean, yes, we do have an alt-win condition, but again, it follows that rule where it's borderline unplayable. Another Necro. So that's why, like, I think when decks like Demon Lords and Royal Knights are good, that puts so much pressure on the entire rest of the game that, like, it's bound to power spike. Like, we have to now be able to beat the clock, which now just got faster. Otherwise, the clock is going to always win. How many boxes did I get? I got 4 boxes. I'm almost done with box number 3, and I'm about to be starting box number 4. You like Rock and Mineral? Good matchup against OTK Seeker Dog. I don't actually think I haven't played that matchup in particular, but I don't know if that's actually true or not. Like, if I OTK, like, OTKs are always 50-50s because it's either I OTK you or you OTK me. So it's just like, I don't necessarily know if an OTK deck versus an OTK deck is actually a positive matchup or not, because there is no interactions to be had. It's just who finds all of their pieces, pulls out first, and kills the opponent. Usually ends up winning. So, again, I could be completely wrong on that. I haven't played the matchup enough to actually know if that's true or not. But, like, math-wise, it just makes sense that OTK decks versus OTK decks, it's always going to be a 50-50 because you're having the same strategy and game plan. It's just how you go about it, it's differently. So, it is unfortunate that I got a Growl Ace as an alt art. I would have literally rather had anything else because this card's not good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we got another 11 SR box. So I don't know. It feels like it's just 50-50 if you get the extra super rare or not. Then alt arts got Wargrowl Ace, Takumi Kazuchi Ace, and Zefika Ace. This isn't an alt art, but it's just the secret. So my secret pulls haven't been insane. I've had one of each secret so far. Again, I would have rather just had all Omnimons, but that's not how this works. Update cards, we got Avenge Kid and Magna. Again, would rather have had anything but the Magna. But, again, that's just how it is. Then the Box Topper, the true Box Topper. Oh, Calamon's in here. Hello. Ryu and BB. Not stellar cards, but free cards are free cards. And then another Examon. Okay. So that's box number 3. So the way I usually do these box videos is I'll always have like the pool of cards up here so you can kind of tell what box number I'm on. I know they're like off to the corner and not necessarily the most focused thing in the world, but that's generally how I try to do it because I don't do any fancy schmancy UI stuff. I could, but that's just time to taken away from actually opening up product. Any attempts to remove your body that isn't DP is difficult because the protection of fragment. But Fenrir does have DP reduction. I mean, but then again, so like in that case situation, if you moved out and you didn't kill the opponent, that means you didn't do what the deck wanted to do. So, like, you moved out, you went up into your big combo, and you didn't end the game. That means something went wrong in the combo for you to not finish the game off. Because the way OTK decks generally work is you do your combo, the game ends. If you mess up in the combo, that's where you need to have some defensive plan, or if you didn't find everything put together, then you need to have like a plan B. But again, that means something went wrong. So like if you pushed out, you did your combo, and then you didn't kill the opponent, and then they push out and they have their combo, they should be winning because you didn't kill them. At least that's my base level understanding. Because I only played Takumi Kazuchi for a couple of events. I'm not the best at it. But like I have played enough games with that deck. And I also play Mirage. So like Mirage is another pseudo OTK deck where like You could play him Floodgatey, or you could play him more OTK. Right now, everyone's playing him more Floodgatey, because it's better to try to stop the opponent, especially if you know you're moving faster. Then you could just kill them on the follow-up turn. So, like, he does have that flexibility to, like, change modes, where it's like, if I have the OTK, I can do it. If I don't have the OTK, I Floodgate. Like, that's why Mirage is, like, a really hated deck, and people find him to be really annoying, is because if you fail in the OTK, you basically stop the opponent from playing the game. So far, Volderarm Altar and Cool Boy is not a bad start. Let's see if we could get Omnimon and, like, Altar Omnimon. That would be pretty dope. Or an SP. That would be nice. Jessamon. I could probably, use the space I have available a little bit better. There we go. Now I have more room for putting, I guess, alts and secrets, and then the supers. You like the new Seekers deck a lot more than the current Fenrir playstyle, to be honest. So, unfortunately, like, whenever I hear Seekers, my mind immediately goes to playing both lines, like, both evolution lines, between, between the Fen stuff and the Pulse stuff. I think them together as a individual deck, like these two as an individual deck, I think is incredibly bad, because mechanically they're doing two different things and they're constantly fighting each other in the exact same deck. So like you have zero actual cohesion in terms of like having a good enough game plan and strategy to warrant it being an actual deck. I think like honestly the Seekers cards, like the Seekers traded cards, are better off being split and supporting their own decks. Like, hey, you play Lugamon to play Lugamon, you play Pulsemon to play Pulsemon. They have no reason being in the same deck together, even though they functionally could. But it goes to, like, just because you could doesn't mean you should type of category. But I do think, like, at least the new Seekers cards opens up new avenues for their respective decks. So I do get that. And I don't necessarily think that liking one versus the other is a bad thing. From a competitive perspective, the old Takumi Kazuchi is still just infathomably better than the new one. The new one doesn't OTK, and therein lies the problem, is because he doesn't have protection, and what protection he does have is very limited and not good. He's an ace Digimon that didn't kill the opponent, so you're putting yourself at risk. And, like, again, it might sound like I'm trashing on it, but, like, from a competitive standpoint, this is the reason why the new Taka isn't necessarily seeing a lot of play. And I have no idea about the Pulsemon stuff. I am nowhere near the Pulsemon aficionado to even remotely have any form of judgment on that. Cool. Codecracker. Codecracker Alt Art. But I do like the fact that you do have different ways to play the same tools. So I do think that's kind of neat. I guess like playing Digimon competitively for too long kind of has tainted my opinions and perspectives. Because like I look at everything from like a meta perspective, because I was playing in tournaments for so long. Where it's just like, I do have, obviously, that drive to win and the drive to succeed and, like, the knowledge to be able to get, knowledge and skill to be able to get there. But I do think maybe I lost touch with some of the more casual side of things as a result. So, like, my judgment is clouded because something isn't necessarily efficient enough to be played at a high competitive level. So I guess it's a me problem. Yeah, so like I know right now in Japan, like the two best decks is Imperial, Virus Imperial, and Royal Knights. And Imperial is still an OTK deck. So like your best decks is the Clock deck and an OTK deck that's moving faster than Takami Kazuchi. Yeah, that doesn't exactly. Oh, that's unfortunate. That doesn't exactly give me a lot of hope and confidence, like as a competitive player, that the format is going to be anywhere near fixed. Or you can ace. Maybe out of the lucky pack I could get the Omnimon. At least this just means I need to buy less Nenes. I mean, I would rather just buy less Omnimons, but what can you do? Like, Nene's only a $2 card versus Omnimon, which is like 20. Just because Nene isn't competitively viable. And again, that just goes to partially my perspective. I don't think Nene's a bad card. It's just, I don't see her played even in the cross decks. The only cross deck that she would be played in is the old Cross 7 deck. I think the old Cross 7 deck she's pretty good in, but that's because the deck already wants to run a whole bunch of like one-off tools. And so she's allowed to exist in there. Alright. In the close, we get Wormmon. Wormmon and Shoto for the close. Alright. So let's put all these bad boys away. And let's look at our spread. All right, so let's open up these cards first. Let's start with the lucky pack. Hope for an Omnimon. That doesn't look like an Omnimon. That's an Oryukin. All right. What do we hope to get in this? Probably Takato. I think Takato is like one of the better ones. They're all like pretty okay. I think like obviously Ian Mako seems pretty good. Rika seems okay. Takato is like the best one. And then when it comes to the eggs, I don't know. I don't think there's a preference on the eggs. Ryu, Kalamon, and Kapuri. Not terrible ones. Like, I do think Digimon is really good at designing a lot of casual decks. I will say that. We got Bolt and Rust. Good old Rusty. So we'll put you in the middle. And then, what was this box? Was this a 10 or 11? So, 1, 2, 3, 4... 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we went 11, 10, 11, 10. And then in the close, we got the worst secret rare. But that is the luck. So nothing super spicy, nothing super special. Just good old-fashioned cards. So let's now see where all of our stuff lies. So alt arts go up here, promos and whatnot go up here. You're an alt art. I think there's obviously more. So promos, alt arts, secrets. I don't have Examon yet, so Examon's now on the board. Justimon is now also on the board. So out of 4 boxes, let's just take a look at our spread. Because this is the most important part, is what we ended up getting overall. You're not a card, but now you are. There's GX. Or you can Growl Tau. Alright. Then we got promos. Where's Examon? Examon's up here. Alt Arts. I know there's Zeffica's gonna go right here. There you are. Alt Arts. Oh, I ran out of space for Invisimon. How did I not have an Invision here? So maybe combine. There we go. Invisi. Oh, and I don't have space for Shout Cross. What the heck? Alright, these are getting straight up removed from the field because there's still more cards. There, I'll just put Omnimon here because I only have 1 Omnimon, which is unfortunate. I would have liked to have more. And then Death X, of course I don't have. So I guess secrets, because I know I don't have a whole lot. I'll just put the secrets in one pile. There. Death X. I guess secrets could just be its own pile then. Like, secrets go here. Perfect. Cool Boy. Jess. C. Tau. Necro. Heavy. Blitz. Then we got Oryukin. More promos. More alt arts. More secrets. Cool Boy. Jess. C. Tau. Necro. Heavy. Blitz. Imperial. Oh, heavy. I had 2 slots for heavy. Oop. I guess I just messed myself up because I already had an extra slot. And Oryukin. And then let me bust out my other stuff. Just so I can see where I'm at. Taka. Where is Examon? I don't think I had any other supers in my deck. So, I needed to remove those anyway. Just so I know I'm looking at the big picture. So I guess I can hold off on this and this in terms of my count. Flip, 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 flip. Where did I put them? Oh, here they are. All right. Nene and cross 6. And then I have the other stack that I had. Of my winners cards. Alright. So no secrets in there, but I did get a whole bunch of other cards. So boom. Alright. So out of 4 boxes, I got 4 Cool Boys, one blast. I guess I should probably just take a look to see what I got the most of. I think I got the most of Necromon. So Necromon, I have 5 Necromons, 4 Cool Boys, 4 Jesmon GX Aces, 4 Gigaseedramons, 4 Heavy Metal Aces, 4 Alpha Oryukin Aces. Did I get 4 of these or 3? I got 3. So 3, 3, 3, 3. So 3 Wargrowlmon Ace, 3 Examon Ace, 3 Justimon Blitzarm Ace, 3 Tau Ace, then 2 Fighter Modes, and then 1 Blast Mode, Beelzemon, 1 Death X, 1 Rapid Ace, 1 Volder Arm, and 1 Takamikazuchi Ace. 1 Invisi and 1 EX6. Then I got 1 Zephica, 1 Omni, and 2 Nenes. So that was out of 4 boxes. Do you think we need side decks? No, Digimon's not going to allow Bandai's not going to allow side decks for Digimon. I think side decks, the big problem with side decks, as they ran into before, was the fact that certain decks are able to abuse side decks more than others, and that creates even further imbalances. So, the idea is neat in concept. Digimon as a game is not designed to be able to support it like what we would want. There was a potential and opportunity for it design-wise, but that's no longer the case, as I can say. And then you run into also the issue of some decks just literally being completely other decks. So you could run the same engine and then just swap out the top ends. So it kind of favors decks like Galaxy Loop, where it's just I just use the proper top end to handle whatever my opponent is doing, and I don't have to run a jack of all trades top end. So I think it's just not designed for it, and Bandai just doesn't like sideboarding. Also in Japan it's best of 1, so there's no actual rule for it. So out of the editions, the Nene count goes up to 3. The Shoutmon. So the Nene count goes up to 3. The Shoutmon count goes up to 2. The Invisi count goes up to 2. How many Wargrowls do I have? Wargrowl goes up to 4. The Alphas go up to 5. I don't need 5 Alphas. That's a little excessive. Oh, no, the cross goes up to 3. I missed a cross. Cross 6. And I think that's it. Yep. So now I have the end result is 5 Oryukin Aces, 4 Wargrowl Aces, 3 Shouts Cross 6. Oh, I'm missing Ataka and Examon. So Examon goes up to 4. So I have 4 Examons, which is fine. Then we got 3 of you. 2 and 2. All right, cool. Where is the 2 section? Right here. So 2 and 2. 3. Boom. And then alt arts, we got Cracker Fang, Volder Arm, Takamika, Wargrowl, Cool Boy, Gigasea, Blast Mode, and Necro. So, I don't know if anything here is like super crazy outside of Cool Boy. I don't think anything is, literally. Maybe the Kokrakor might be, because Takumi Kazuchi is still meta because of how good the deck already was, and then it just got better. So these are probably like the two hot cards. I don't think I got that many, so update cards. 2 bolts. So I got all 6 of them, at least one of all 6. I just need more of all 6. And then 2 Kalas, 2 Ryus, 2 or 3 Kapuris? 2 Kapuris. And then the rest are one-ofs. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So, interesting. Very interesting stuff. Some decks need all of their pieces, so it's unfair to them when flexible decks already have the advantage of being flexible. Yeah. So overall, polls weren't exactly exciting. They weren't terrible. I probably hardcore lost money on the set, but like versus if I were to just buy all of these in singles, but that's what we do. We gamble. That's all it really is. It's just a big gamble. I'm most likely gonna end up selling the alt arts. Unless I need them to complete a playset, because I'll go ahead and show you what I have. So I like to have a binder full of a master playset of everything. So this binder, hold on. Ah. I don't exactly have the table space for it. I might. Boom. All right. All right, that's gonna have to work. Numemon, you could go up here. I don't need you hanging around. Yep. So I have been working on master playsets binders. So I already have the majority of most sets already mastered out. Some of them will include alt arts. So like here's an alt art here. It's just a general thing that I like to do. So obviously there's some holes because some cards I've been playing with. So just as an example, here's Numemon, and where is it? Yeah, and here's the Valkyrie Ace. So it just allows me to know that I have access at any card to be able to build any deck. That's the big reason why I like doing this. It's not anything high rarity. But because I open up enough product, it just lets me be able to do this. And then usually outside of this, I try to have a set inside of the binder for like collector's purposes, and then a set outside of the binder. So that way I have like a play set and a storage set, essentially. So like here's all of the super fancy secrets from BT16. I have, as you can see, like just literally everything from EX6. I know I'm playing with some of these, so that's why, again, holes are missing. But yeah, for every set, I generally have a binder for like this that's combining a whole bunch of different sets. So like, yeah, here's all of the Hexablaus. the Sendrills, the secrets. Yeah, it's good stuff all around. The Melga and Wargrave bring back memories. So now we're into. So I personally like putting these away. So hold on, let me bring up. You don't need to see Facebook. Digimoncard.dev. Here we go. Then we need to go to BT19 and sort by secret rare and super rare. Go. So first up, this slot's yeah, because these are the BT18 secret rares. So this is the start of BT19, which is the War Growlmons. So this tells me basically how much I need to buy based on if I'm planning on playing with the card or not. Because I'll just look and refer to this. Then this is Shoutmon. So I need to buy one Shoutmon. Then we got Taumon. I mean, granted, the majority of these cards probably aren't worth anything, but some of them I know for a fact are worth something. Then after Taumon, we got Dynus, we got that, so Rapid. Bees, Justy. Then... Oh, he just has a whole bunch of different arts. I'm like, wait, staring at it. I'm like, hold on. Then we got Lord Knights. Then Beelzemon. I only had one Beels, so... One Beels. Then it goes... Yep. And then this should be Nene then, right? Yep, Nene. Then we got all of the EX 8 cards. Minus that. I don't know I don't remember what this is supposed to be. Oh! Duh. I'm being really stupid. That's Gallantmon. How did I not... I guess this is an excuse to allow me to put away my cards. Gallant and Gallant. And then it looks like for... Oh, that's just tissue paper. So that means that's the end of the binder. So it looks like I need a new binder then. So I'll have to go on to Amazon and order another binder. But at least I got the BT19 cards put away. for the time being. So when it comes to BT20 cards, just to put them in order, I guess. Let's go search. Super secret. Go. So it starts off, like, if I were to... so I'll put this away now. Boop. So I generally sort them by, obviously, their card number, which is pseudo by color. So these are the cards I'm going to try to sell outside of the blast mode. So that way I don't have to buy a blast mode. I think everything else, I think Volder Arm and Taka I can keep also. And then these are for sale. So going at this top, instead of by quantity, let's just get all these out of the way. We got fighter mode. So 2 fighter mode, so that means I need to buy 2 fighter mode. Then Jessamon. So fighter mode, Jessamon. I'm okay on Jessamons. Unless I want to play Jessamon, then I need to buy like 2 or 3 of this. Again, probably not super expensive, so not a problem. Then we got Giga. Giga. Followed by Volder Arm. So Volder Arm. Examon. Invisimon. Alpha Oryukin. So overflow, a little extra. Heavy metal. Well, oh, a Necromon I had 5 of. So yeah, heavy metal. Then Necro. So 4 Necro, 1 overflow. Taka Mikazuchi. So 3 total Takas. Death-X. Cool Boy. And then is it Omni before Zefika? No, Zefika before Omni. So Zefika, Omni. Boom. Oh, I forgot to put the blast mode away. Oops. So 2 overflows, and then these are for sale. So I'll list those later. Let me put the blast mode away because I forgot to do that. All right, now that my cards are for the most part organized and put away, well, that's probably going to be the end of it. So let me read chat and see if I missed anything. Should you buy a box or buy 4 Omnimon X? So, let me pull up TCG player. TCG player. Oh, I'm inverted. Let's... Yeah, here we go. Mobile style. All right, so let's look at Omnimon X. Omnimon X antibody. Omnimon X antibody is currently sitting about 25. So just buy Omnimon X. Like, when it comes to buying singles or buying a box, just buy the singles. So like, I'm gonna be spending $75 on Omnimon X. I don't think he's going to be going down that much. In fact, he actually has the potential to go up, just because all of these new X antibodies, like megas, are incredibly busted. So whenever they have like that super special alt art, it seems like they are incredibly busted cards. This is basically the new Blitz Omni for game. Except it's probably... No, it is on the same level of like Blitz Omni for game, just because of how easy it is for a lot of decks to use, and it actually has the potential to have more impact than just Blitz Omni for game, where Blitz Omni is just the Blitz Omni for game factor. There is no other way to play the card outside of him. This has way more usage, and it's a higher rarity, so I would just go ahead and buy the Omnimon X's. Should you buy Medieval Gallant, or should you buy a box? That one's a little bit harder because Medieval Gallant's like reaching $80-$90. How do I spell medieval? Medieval Gallant. Yeah, so like he's already reaching like $90. There's not a lot of listings, so you might as well just buy the box. Like, to be honest, granted, you're spending, how much is his box? You're spending $90 to maybe not get a Medieval Gallant. Like, it's a 50-50. So, essentially, like, the way EX sets work is it's a 50-50 chance if you're going to get a secret rare. So, that means you have a 50-50 chance of a 50-50. So, you realistically have, like, maybe 25% chance to actually get a Medieval Gallant out of any given box of EX8. So, like, it just depends if you feel like you just want to open the box more on if you're... or if you just want the medieval. So that's kind of where I'm at, is like, do you just want the box and then have everything else, like the bulk and whatnot? Or do you just want to, like, buy the medieval and skip the box? Because they're basically comparable in price. Like, if you open a Medieval Gallant, it pays for the box. But, like, at that point, like, if you're just trying to take the gamble away, you're still better off just buying the medieval. Do you think Omnimon X's price will go down? People are still opening up boxes, and people are still getting their product, so it has a chance of going a little bit further down. I don't think it's necessarily going to drop too much more. Like, the set's already been out, a lot of people have already opened, the market price has already been established, so unless there's like a ginormous wave of new cards entering the secondary market to further drop the price, it's most likely not going to drop. Because that's how at least like TCG Player works, is it's a race to the bottom. So, like, because now the bottom has already been hit, it's already been a couple of days, so it's most likely not really firmly established, but like, it's like, if I were to list, I have to now compete with this type of a price, especially for like Omnimon. I would be competing with anyone who's 20, 25. So like, it just depends on how much product is in fluctuation in order to retain a lower floor. So that's the big thing, is like, if there's enough new people and new sellers listing to constantly undercut each other to get to the bottom, then that's how the price actually falls. But yeah, so like it's cards and prices like this that isn't necessarily the greatest for the overall health of the game. We've seen it before with Death X, but granted, Death X was not nearly as playable as Medieval Gallant. Like between Medieval Gallant and Royal Knights, you better have Psychmon style floodgates in your deck. Otherwise, you're probably not likely going to have a very good time with the game. Searchable because red and blue. Yeah, there's like Blitz. The Omnimon is way more he's obviously a secret rare, so the rarity goes in. It has less printings because Blitz Omni was reprinted. But yeah, being better searched, a better card for other case uses. Omnimon X is definitely going to be a very popular and strong card. Medieval Gallant is more expensive than regular Gallant X alt art. Yeah. Yeah. Because the card, like, the problem is Gallantmon already had his time to shine. And because he has a hard time dealing with stuff like Royal Knights, because they could just easily pass the memory, bypassing his protection, like, Gallantmon X is going to age worse. Like, Gallantmon X is probably going to age somewhere in the middle between Rapid X and Magnamon X. So how much is Rapid X? So I don't think, because Rapid X still hasn't hit below $30, I don't think Medieval Gallant's gonna hit below 30. So I think like not Medieval, Gallant X. So I think like Gallantmon is probably going to settle around $35 realistically. It's probably correct where it's at. How much is how much is what's its face? Oh my gosh. Oh my god, Magnamon dropped like a rock. So yeah, so like if Magnamon is settling at around 30 and you have Rapidmon also settling around 30, I could see Gallimon X following that same price trend of settling at around 30. Maybe a little bit above, but still, like, oof, oof. How the mighty have fallen. Was I correct? I was still correct on selling Valkyrie Ace. I sold my Valkyrie's Ace textured for like 200. I think like just a little under 200. So I was correct on that. Yeah, I was so mad that the store pulled the Gallantmon or the Omnimon version of this art. Uh that was a little disheartening. But that is the nature of the beast. So, yeah, interesting stuff. And if anyone's curious, like what this is, I was working on the regulation battle script. So I'm still doing some research when it comes to that. So that's going to be a nice, fun future video. But yeah, that's essentially all I really have. The only other thing I could do is like open pocket cards. So I'd rather spare Pokemon content from a Digimon stream. So it's getting late. Booster boxes are opened. I hope everyone enjoyed the polls and enjoyed the discussion. I always like having open discussions with everyone about stuff. Like it might seem like I'm a doomer, because I'm stopping buying booster boxes. But like unfortunately for me, there's no competitive events that I can play in until post May. So like we have Worlds coming up, which obviously I'm not playing. And then we have Ultimate Cup, which already is sold out. That's the only online event. So I can't play in that. Then we have 3 in-person regionals, which I can't travel to. So again, not playing in anything until basically May. or post May, assuming they bring back a store championship that I'm actually able to travel and participate in, and any online events. And like, this is going to be a very big and important year. Like, this is the make it or break it year for Digimon. Unification has a lot to prove. Not necessarily for the fact that the game is unified, but the fact that Bandai can actually support Digimon the way it needs to be supported. Because now that the game is unified, they have to put more attention into it. And if they half-ass it, people are just going to leave for Gundam. Like, point blank and simple, people are either going to quit to go play some other game, or they're going to leave for Gundam. So this is going to be a very important year that Bandai cannot screw up. And if they do, the game's not going to die. I'm not going to say like the game, like this isn't a doomer thing. The game's not going to die, but this is a very important year that Bandai cannot screw up. Otherwise, it's going to cause irreparable damage to the game. Well, maybe not irreparable damage, but a lot of damage. It'll shake a lot of people's trust and foundation in the game. But yeah, so I'm probably with this set gonna just try to look to fill out the cards that I'm missing, figure out what decks I actually want to play out of the set, because meta-wise, I still have zero reason to leave Taka Mikazuchi, Purple Hybrids, or Mirage. Like, there's no reason for me to not play any of those decks still. And then obviously, like, Royal Knights is going to be big, and this is still unplayable. Like, Shoto's deck is still unplayable after all of the support they gave. I don't know if I'm building Excel mostly for the common and uncommon event. I don't know if I want to build Examon or any other decks. I got a lot to see on what I want to play. You say 2 to 3 years? Yeah, so like, basically, the outlook that I see is if Bandai doesn't get their act together and they skid by the skin of their teeth for this year, that's going to set the game on a potential downward trajectory, because this was their big year to prove themselves. And if they mess this up, then again, the foundation of our faith will be shaken. And that's not going to be good for the outlook. So I would say if they continued that downward trajectory from a poor unification year, then yes, it might have 2 to 5 years in terms of Bandai actually choosing to actively support it. If the sales continue, I guess not really continue, if the sales decide to start declining. I think like right now, Digimon being Bandai's second best game means that there's a lot of faith and trust, not really faith and trust, but a lot of interest in Digimon as a card game. And I think that's really good. But Bandai themselves has proven that they don't know how to manage their stuff. So that's the part that has me worried the most. But I'm gonna continue. Well, so like I'm in personally a pigeon-held position where my faith in the game is going to be dictated on this next ban and restriction list. Like, I and a lot of other players are like, hey, can Bandai actually fix the game, or is the game going to continue to get worse and worse, and then as a result, us as players are going to have less and less fun? Like, I'm not trying to sit here and be old man Jenkins, where it's just like, I prefer the BT4 format. Like, no, my personal favorite format was BT13 and BT15, because that format, those two formats, like BT15 Fixed and BT13, had some really good diversity and meta games. And that's what I'm looking for. Is like, do the games feel fun and interesting versus like, yes, there's 10 decks, but all of them you can't do anything, and you might as well just be playing solitaire on who decides to, like, how the winner is going to end up being. Like, that's not necessarily what I define as fun. I like a good healthy back and forth. I don't want to just not interact with my opponent. And if the game continues on its current path, I'm probably going to be dropping out post unification year, like a year out from unification, in terms of like hardcore competitive play. So it's going to be very interesting on what's going to happen next. But yeah, so I hate to leave things on a downer, but it's getting late, and I'm already like 2 hours into this, and I have to get up to go to work in the morning. So thank you all for coming out and watching. It really does mean a lot to me, especially since this is my last booster box opening that I'm going to be doing, which is why it's a special stream extravaganza, because I'm not going to be buying any more boxes. It's not that I don't want to, I do. It's just finances aren't necessarily aligning for me to want to support the game in the same capacity that I wanted to. Like, I have other things in my life I need to be putting the money towards. So, but that's going to be it. Again, thank you all for coming out, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day. If you're watching this in post or like time, and I hope to see everyone in the next video. I am planning a decent amount of content streams. I got, not like streaming, I want to stream more, but I have a couple of videos in the works, as you just saw. Deck profiles to work on, simulator games to play, and whatnot. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe so that way you could stay up to date on what's going on with my channel. And make sure to ring that notification bell so you actually can see when I go live or upload next. And with that, I hope to catch everyone in the next video or stream. Have a good night, and later.